You know what you gotta do. Hello everyone and welcome. Today I answer the question, can I beat Dark Souls 2 by one-shotting everything? First, I need to cover the rules. If you've seen my Dark Souls 1 one-shot, it's more or less the same. No glitches or exploits. If I want to kill an enemy, it has to go from full health to dead in one hit, etc. There are two differences, however. First, instead of one-shotting a whole boss health bar, I just have to one-shot each individual enemy I'm fighting. A very important distinction for later, trust me. And secondly, it is not a low-level challenge. I did think about doing that at first because there are so many bosses and invaders, but no, just no. Lastly, as long as I'm not doing damage to an enemy, I can pester them however I please. And that's pretty much it, so let's get into the run. I picked Sorcerer because, well, I can't say I'm stupid as I have the highest intelligence stat, but it definitely wasn't the right call. Why am I permanently guarding? I feel like the game is trying to tell me something. Well, if only every enemy would just unalive itself off screen for me, this run would be a lot easier. Right, so the first step is to get to Melentia. She sells the blacksmith key, but more importantly, she can also give me the Silver Serpent's Ring +1, and spoiler alert, I'm going to need a lot of souls this run. Everyone that has ever played Dark Souls 2 knows running by the enemies isn't the best idea, and it's no different here, but after a quick death to reset everything, Melentia is unlocked. Now I just need 12,000 souls, but how does one get souls without being able to defeat enemies? Well, fortunately, another early game area has the strongest force in this game, gravity. Also, you better get used to seeing this background as I spent way more time here than any sane individual ever should. I made sure to join the Covenant of Champions to keep the knights from despawning, and then just ran around them until they stopped wanting to play this game. Eventually, I had collected enough souls, so I bought the Fragrant Branch from Melentia, and for my troubles, I am awarded a humble ring. Time for the first boss of the run. Yeah, you all knew that was coming. Up top, Licia is waiting to sell me one very important miracle, Force. I make sure to level up Faith to 12 to actually be able to cast it, then just dump everything into Int for more spell damage. I am now a force to be reckoned with. Except not actually, because Force kinda sucks. It does way less knockback than I was expecting, or maybe the Hide Knights are way chunkier than I thought, I don't know. All I do know is it hardly moves them, so it's a pain to knock them off the edge. I mean, it still works, so it's not like this farming strategy is completely dead, just kind of on life support. After a bit, I am able to buy Lightning Spear. I'm not able to cast it just yet, but considering how strong lightning damage is, it'll be worth it. That being said, it probably won't do much on its own, so it's time I got another piece of the puzzle. I took the Petrified Something as my starting gift, and that was so I could sit in the Things Betwixt for hours softer setting until a Chandler's Trident dropped. Unlike in Dark Souls 1, the buff actually does apply to the player, meaning a potential 25% increase in damage. But it's actually a 0% increase because not being able to wield the Trident means I can't cast the buff. It's fine, no really, I mean it doesn't have crazy high stat requirements, so what's a little extra farming, right? I mean, I'd be here doing this anyway, so whatever, I definitely don't regret my life decisions right now. After some more fun games with the Knights, I am at 22 Faith and can cast Lightning Spear, but the real question is, will it one-shot the basic hollows? Yes! Except no, it can one-shot them if they're standing in water, but not on land, because of course it won't. Even if it could, I have a staggering 3 casts, so it won't actually get me anywhere. My only hope now is that Soul Arrow can get the job done. Oh no. Okay, more levels, that's all I need, and for more levels, I just need more souls. I can get more souls with better clothes. You, get naked or get dead. He chose death. With the Seldora set acquired, farming will be much easier, and if you're wondering why I didn't get it sooner, I honestly didn't know if dropping him down the pit would cause his gear to be retrievable or not. That being said, I don't actually feel like farming for more levels, so instead I did the smart thing and looked up where Great Soul Arrow can be found. Surprisingly, it's just a short walk from Melentia. And I am happy to say it is strong enough to one-shot the basic hollows. For some reason that achievement doesn't feel as grand as I thought it would. They also really aren't worth the souls compared to what I can get in Hyde's Tower of Flame, so did I just waste the last couple hours of my life? Who knows? After collecting a few thousand souls, I leveled up my magic stick with more magic rocks and got the dex required to hold the trident. Except I still can't use it? What? I don't meet the 11 strength? How much does a sorcerer have? 3? It's fine, it's totally fine. That's just more farming, just more knights going for a swim. Finally I can dance. It's beautiful. Okay, time to test out my power on the undead knights. You're joking, right? This is some kind of sick joke made by the game, right? Thankfully, I can one-shot them if I do a little jig first. Or not, I guess. All this tells me is that sorcery isn't as useful as I want it to be, but maybe another form of magic would be, and luckily for me, Dark Souls 2 has many magics. First, I need to free Rosabeth. After getting her rocks off, I need to repent my sins to Licia and gain access to Huntsman's Copse, where I made a major discovery. Felkin sells Resonant and Great Resonant Soul. I thought these were only obtained via the Pilgrims of the Dark Covenant, but them being here is huge. But they cost souls, and you know what that means. At this point, I might as well buy a property here since it seems this is where I live. Luckily, they are pretty cheap, so the farm is fairly short. Or it would be if I didn't decide to also farm for the cats rig. Since I didn't actually expect the hexes to be here, I figured I might as well continue on the path of fire first. So I take all my clothes off and do some questionable shimmying on the ledge until I can drop down into the gutter to claim my prize, the Dark Pyromancy Flame. With this, I now have all the items necessary to cast from each school of magic. The problem now is making that useful. I make my way through my backyard until I end up in No Man's Wharf where I meet Carhelion. I buy Great Heavy Soul Arrow from him thinking it would be strong, but it's just not. I mean, okay, yes it is, but Resonant Soul outperforms it, so I guess it's time to go to the dark side? I farm up 30 face so Licia will give me the Idol's Chime, which to my understanding is the best thing for casting hexes, and finally it is time to try the last giant. So I buff up with a Chandler's Trident and Great Resonant Soul him right in the dick for nowhere near enough damage. Awesome. Okay, that looked bad because it was, but to be fair, my chime isn't upgraded at all. Surely if it's maxed out, I'd be doing a lot more damage. The problem is that this chime is upgraded with Twinkling Titanite, a very rare upgrade material early on. There is a way to get it, but before I do that, I'd like to try something else first. So, Hyde's Tower of Flame it is! This farm is to get 3 fire seeds and upgrade the Pyromancy Flame. Unfortunately, the strongest spell I have access to immediately is Fire Orb, and it does less than Great Resonant Soul. So, the last giant feels like a dead end, and since he is the first boss of the game, I didn't really have high hopes that I could do literally any other fight, but I am nothing if not determined. Hexes have consistently been the most damaging type of magic I have, which I'm sure is a surprise to no one that has played this game, so the solution is to upgrade my chime and go from there. New problem, how do? Well, first there is one Twinkling Titanite in Shaded Wood, so I figured I would head over there, but this is where I made a huge realization. I had misremembered the red Tearstone ring as being after the Shrine of Winter, but it's before. I could have been using it the whole time. I mean, it got nerfed into the ground since Dark Souls 1, but I'll take that 20% boosted damage any day. I grabbed the aforementioned Twinkling Titanite as well as a Fire Seed, then leveled up my chime. I still don't think it'll be enough to one-shot the last giant, but maybe it will be for the Skeleton Lords. So I set up RTSR on the skeletons, used the Chandler's Trident to buff myself, and it worked! I one-shot a Skeleton Lord, that is huge! So this was just a test. I didn't have enough souls to keep trying, but that is fantastic news because if I can get through them, I can get to Kloana who sells Twinkling Titanite. I do a bit of farming because I don't think regular Resonant Soul would be enough, so I wanted to have 2 attunement slots, plus I need more souls to fight the regular skeletons anyway. Alright, the plan is to wipe out all 3 Skeleton Lords because the Trident buff doesn't last very long. Let's do this. I take out the first Skeleton Lord, no problem, then turn to fire to second one and it goes down, then the third one and it is alive? Oh wait, so is the second one? What? They have different health pools? Are you serious? Dark Souls, why? That is the dumbest thing. Why? This isn't even the final bite of this shit sandwich. No, at this point, the man, the myth, the breaker of souls, J.K. Leeds, dropped an absolute bombshell on me.
Yeah, so the red Tearstone ring in Dark Souls 2, you know it only affects physical damage, right?
Why, Dark Souls 2? I want to like you so badly, so why do you constantly feel the need to kick me in the dick? Just why? Alright, fine. You want to play like that game? I'll play like that. First, I pick up a small, smooth, and silky stone in the things betwixt, then another 3 from No Man's Wharf. Now I do the incredibly slow and tedious process of dropping 1, seeing if it was traded for a Twinkling Titanite, then reload to save when it inevitably is trash. I was at this for an hour and never got a single one. I'm not even sure Twinkling Titanite are in the drop pool at this point. I have never had so much resistance in a challenge run before. This is ridiculous. I got so fed up with trying to get these to drop that I did the only other thing I could think of to do in this situation. Farm. And I mean a lot of farming. It only took a few hours, but I did it. I dropped these knights in the ocean until I had 1 million soul memory. Why is that important, you ask? Well, because now the way to Drangleic Castle is open. Are you serious? I'm fine. No, really, I'm totally fine because that damage was close enough. I bet if I did a little dance, it would all be okay. The run's not dead yet. Now that I have access to Drangleic Castle, you might be asking yourself, fucking why? Well, it's because I wanted to have a nice chat with my old buddy Gandalf. Then I quickly go to the Shaded Woods to catch up with him there before finally descending into the gutter. It's a little harder to see than normal, but these hollows are no issue with Resonant Soul. After arriving in the Black Gulch, all I have to do is open this door and I forgot you have to get the key from the giants below. Okay, another setback? It's fine, really, no, it's okay, there is still something I can do. Back in the castle, I pluck the frozen flower which will allow me access to frozen Ilium Lois. Why would I want to come here? Because I have lost my frickin' mind. No, not yet. I'm not hollow yet, because the Dark Clutch ring is here. Joke's on you, asshole, I still got the ring. Okay, so this ring will provide a much needed boost to my hex damage, and with that, I set off to murder everything before the Skeleton Lords. I'm not mad, really, it's a tactical decision. Okay, so here's the setup. Northern Ritual Band +1 for extra cast, the Dark Clutch ring, and the Chandler's Trident buffing my +1 Idol's Chime. 583. That isn't enough, is it? No, it's not. Well, now there is nowhere left to run. I just need to upgrade my Chime more, and that means I have to roll RNG until I get the drops. There is one Twinkling Titanite in the Face Dart room of Drink Lake Castle, so that helps a little. Oh my god, it does exist. I was starting to lose hope. Okay, now that my Idol's Chime is upgraded to a +2, I'm gonna try the Skeleton Lords again. 602. It went up by 19 points of damage. That is not enough. Even if I somehow managed to get my Chime to a +5, I don't think that would cut it. For those of you wondering, I'm at 53 Int and Faith, and even if I level those to 99, I'm not convinced at this point that it would be enough to make a difference. That's not even including the fact that I don't have enough patience to level one of those stats to 99, let alone both. Maybe I missed something. Ah, I know! Whispers of Despair! This is a hex that will act like a debuff to lower the enemy's defenses. Maybe with this it'll be enough. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. I guess this is another thing that only works on physical attacks for some reason. So, is that it then? Is the run truly dead? I feel like victory is so close yet so far. Like the solution is right in front of me, but I can't find it.
You know the red tearstone ring only affects physical damage,
Only
right?
affects
physical damage,
Only affects
right? Physical damage, right? Physical damage.
That's it. It's time to return to Bonk. I had neglected melee weapons because I figured if they didn't make the cut in Dark Souls 1, there is no way they would for the sequel, but not having access to RTSR is really putting a strain on everything. So I head back to the Forest of Fallen Giants where I promptly mug Cabbage for his keys, rob him of the soul vessel in his basement, then proceed to hate myself by farming the Demon's Great Hammer. Fortunately, it drops after about 10 soft resets, then I visit the Firekeeping Grandmas and reallocate my stats, putting everything into strength, but making sure I have enough int and dexterity to cast Whispers of Despair and use the Trident. Alright, with RTSR and my big fuck off hammer, I can only hope it's enough. Was it as good for you as it was for me, Big Tony? With the biggest issue out of the way, all I have to do now is not die. I actually learned I don't even need to buff or be in RTSR range to one-shot them, which at least takes the pressure off from dying to this boss. Making liberal use of the alluring skulls, I am able to safely smack Tony's bony booty and the Skeleton Lords fall in one hit. Well, you know, individually at least. Now I am able to get to Harvest Valley, and more importantly, the lady with the massive stones, and also a lot of upgrade materials. Wait, why doesn't she sell Twinkling Titanite? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because I am so stupid I didn't read that she doesn't sell them until after I have the King's Ring. Fortunately, she will give me 1 if I spend 20,000 souls, so that's something. Okay, I think it's time to try the last giant again. So with my setup, I do a staggering 866 damage to him. That's like a third of his health. Okay, how can I increase my damage more? I mean, more Twinkling Titanite would do it, and there are 2 small, smooth, and silky stones in Harvest Valley, but we all know what's better than 1 massive hammer. That's right, 2 massive hammers. I also soft reset for another Twinkling Titanite, but the second hammer is far, far more important. Unfortunately, they weigh a ton, and while I can swing them around, I'm pretty sure not being able to walk will be a much bigger problem than my damage. So I upgrade the first hammer to a +2, then sacrifice my life for the Royal Soldier's Ring +1. I could have just farmed out a few levels, but I can't begin to tell you how done I was with this run, and at this point, the very idea of having to farm more sent me into a psychotic frenzy. Anyway, even with the ring, I'm still too fat, but that's nothing taking off my clothes can't fix. Alright, once again, with feeling. Well, that's definitely more damage, but he's very much so alive. And I guess that's it then. The run is dead. You cannot beat Dark Souls 2 by one-shotting everything. Except, I've come too far to just give up, so I think it's time to bend the rules just a smidge and see how far I can really get. There are still a few ways to increase my damage, a couple items, a few more Twinkling Titanite, but the problem is they're all locked behind other bosses, and if I can't beat the last giant, then I doubt I can handle anything else. But I do have a bit of a weird and definitely rule-breaking solution. First, a little setup. I make sure to bonk Pate, and then have a couple friendly chats with Creighton. Next up, I fight Not Quelaag. I know I didn't do all my buffs, but yeah, not happening. So instead, I get the Ring of Whispers and the Red Eye Ring, then talk to Tark, and together we take on Scorpioness Nashka. I had planned on running up her tail and standing on her back, and hopefully that would stop her from attacking Tark, or at all, but she never gave me the chance. Fortunately, Tark is an absolute chad among Scorpion people and just soloed Nashka. Well, guess he wanted to ride her tail one last time. I just want to reiterate for the inevitable comment saying I cheated, which you ain't seen nothing yet. The one-hit run is dead. There was nothing else that could be done. Summoning is against my personal rule set, because if not, you could just summon for every boss and keep them alive, and then it's technically a no-hit and pacifist run rolled into one. The point of me taking her on is because she is the one boss that stood between me and an item that might just be the single thing necessary to one-hit the last giant. Well, technically two bosses, but the other one is the Prowling Magus. Do they even count? Surely I can one-shot these enemies. I have no words. Yeah, so my first attempt on them went not so great. I'm able to one-shot the regular hollows, but not the clerics or the boss itself. Fortunately, that was without any buffs, so if I set up RTSR, I'm still not able to, but that was closer. Doubly fortunately, adding the Chandler's Trident on top of it does let me one-shot Magus. But not the clerics. Seriously, game? Okay, well, once again, if I had just a tiny bit more damage, I could make this work. Luckily, with Nashka defeated, I can use a bonfire aesthetic, which means not only did the Twinkling Titanite respawn, but there's 3 of them now, so I can upgrade my second Great Hammer to +2. That should be enough. And it is! Well, that's embarrassing! I did not expect the congregation to be this difficult. Fortunately, once Magus and the clerics are cleared out, I can heal out of RTSR range because it isn't necessary for the hollows. And just like that, 2 bosses have been cleared in 1 hit. Oh right, Dragon Rider, 3 bosses. Sort of. Whatever. I meet up with Kraton, who recognizes that I flattened Pate and demands the ring. Happily, I give it to him, and in return, I get the Seldora Denki. Then I am able to claim my prize, the engraved gauntlets. At first glance, these gauntlets might just appear to be a cool fashion statement, but they actually have a potentially run-breaking effect. There is a 5% chance that your attack will crit and do 1.5 times as much damage. I also decided I might as well make the push for 99 strength. I'm not that far off, and at this point, I should be able to one-shot the Hide Knights for an easy 1,000 souls. Of course I can't. Why would I be able to? After my sanity was chipped away, I finally did it. I got to 99 strength. Then I buy Malicious stock of Bright Bugs, and it's time to see if I can one-shot the last giant. Alright, so here's the setup. RTSR, consume a Bright Bug, do a little dance, whisper sweet despair into the last giant's ear, then bring my dual hammers crashing down. It's not even close. But the good news is that the gauntlets didn't proc, so maybe if they do, then it's possible. Except I tried this fight for 2 hours, just soft resetting outside of his boss fog, and I never once got a single crit. I'm not even sure if you can get a crit while power stancing at this point. That 5% chance sounds more like 100% bullshit, but maybe I'm just salty. Either way, this is where I decided the run needed to well and truly die. Or become redead if you count the Nashka shenanigans. There are other ways to increase my damage, namely the Ring of Blades or more Twinkling Titanite, but the problem is the Pursuer. And any of the other numerous bosses I have access to all have more health than the last giant. Well, with one exception. But I'll get to that later. My point is, if I can't handle the last giant, I highly doubt I can handle any other boss. So here is what I'm going to do. I am going to remove any element of chance from this cursed run and see if under perfect conditions how far you can get one-shotting bosses. That's right, it's time to bust out Cheat Engine. First, Twinkling Titanite. Some of you might have noticed while I was farming for the Demon's Great Hammer, I started dropping all of my tradable items at the same time. That's because it was unbelievably tedious to drop one, check it, and quit out to reload when it wasn't what I wanted. Had I actually done them one at a time and got the exact drops I had hoped for, I would have had enough Titanite to upgrade each hammer one more time, so to that end, I just give myself 6 of them and call it good. Second, and a lot more in the realm of questionable, is the Gauntlet proc. At first, I wanted to simply buff the crit chance from 5 to 100%, but I honestly couldn't figure out how to do that. I even asked the smartest Dark Souls 2 modder I know, Challenger Andy, for help, but this is what he had to say.
Okay, because this is Dark Souls 2, we can't use Dark Souls Map Studio, so we're gonna have to go into the EMEVD. And because this is fucking Dark Souls 2, I can't fucking figure it out, and I'm losing my damn mind!
I guess Dark Souls 2 modding is as convoluted as the actual game. It's possible to simply change the damage modifier of the weapon, but the reason I didn't want to do that is because I don't know how crits work in this game. The simplest answer is that 5% of the time your damage is just multiplied by 1.5, but this is Dark Souls 2, so I don't trust that that's how it actually works. To further convolute things, I would frequently see 2 damage numbers when trying the last giant, implying each hit is a separate damage function and thus can both crit. I don't know, in the end I just set the damage modifier of my weapon to 1.5 because at this point we're just having fun, right? At least that's what I'm telling my therapist. Anyway, under these new conditions, can I one-shot the last giant? No, but it is so close. There must be something else I'm missing. I did try to give the Pursuer a go for the Ring of Blades, but like I suspected, this wasn't enough to one-shot him either, even with a weakness to strike damage. And honestly, this was where I was ready to throw in the firebombs.
Huh. This isn't my closet.
Lemon, how did you get here?
You've got 99 strength and you mentioned firebombs. You do the math.
Oh, well, while you're here, have you any idea how I can push my damage just a little further?
You know weapon buffs are a thing, right?
Weapon buffs? That's it! How did I ever miss that? Thanks, Lemon! Lemon? He's gone. Or was he ever even here? Maybe this run is just getting to me. Seriously though, Lemon so politely reminded me, great magic weapon is a thing. So down in the Black Gulch I grab it, then rapid extract back to the bonfire. Alright, so this is it. 2+3 Demons Great Hammers, boosted with the Red Tearstone Ring, enchanted by the Chandler's Dance, surrounded by the Brightbug's power, buffed with Great Magic Weapon, whispering sweet death into the last giant's ear, and then bringing my hammers down. I did it! I beat the first boss! As happy as I am with taking him down, all it really did was unlock the Pursuer's Arena, and if I wasn't able to defeat him before, I don't know why I would be able to now. I did have a big brain moment, and I thought I could use Whispers of Despair to lower his defense and then hit him with the Ballista, but that didn't work because this game sucks. I went ahead and tried the same setup as before, but it still wasn't enough. I then had another idea, which was to buff the right weapon with Gold Pine Resin, but that appeared to do exactly the same amount of damage as when it wasn't buffed. I have no idea how buffing and infusions work in this game. Once again, so close, yet so far. Ironically, the thing I would need to push my damage over the edge was in his possession, but I can't get it because I can't beat him. There was still Flynn's Ring, but that's in the Sunken Crown DLC, which is behind the Rotten, and yeah, that ain't happened. If only I could find a way to get more Twinkling Titanite, it would push me over the edge. It was at this moment I had the greatest idea ever. The Giants. See, at the beginning of the run, I wrote them off as not one-shottable, but they actually have slightly less health than the Pursuer does, so maybe I can one-shot them now. Unfortunately, even under perfect conditions, I couldn't. I guess they just aren't weak to strike damage or something. At this point, I could have called it quits. I mean, nothing that is one-shottable would actually be helpful, but I was too invested. So, I decided why not break another rule? I mean, I already used Tark for Nashka, and I'm using Cheat Engine, so at this point the rules are more like guidelines anyway. With that, I hit the L2 button twice for the first time in the run, and then after a cheeky little quit out, the Forgotten Key is mine. Talking to Gandalf over here, I joined the Pilgrims of the Dark. This run has done everything in its power to work against me, I swear. After a not so cheeky little Alt F4, I talked to him and joined the Pilgrims. Now, a long time ago my plan was to join and get the Climax spell from the Dark Lurker, but again, I don't think that's gonna happen. So why did I even bother opening this door? Well, Gandalf here hoards one particular item. Bonfire Ascetics, so I buy his entire stock. Why, you ask? Well, my genius plan was to use them to reset any areas that had Twinkling Titanite, but I kind of forgot you have to defeat the area boss to do that. And at this point, I was once again ready to put down the controller. I was content that the game had finally won, that there was nothing else to be done. But I decided to take one last look over the wiki to see if I had missed anything, and to my surprise, I had. In fact, it was such an obvious mistake on my part, I'm ashamed I didn't realize it sooner, especially considering I already acknowledged its existence. Invisibros. Dotted around the map are several hollows that are just chillin', waiting to be found. They can drop several different items, but most commonly smooth and silky stones, which for all intents and purposes means they are dispensing Twinkling Titanite. I grab one from No Man's Wharf, one next to the King's Gate, one in Huntsman's Copse, one from the Doors of Pharos, and a whopping 5 from the Gutter. Then I totally 100% legitimately traded each of them at the Crows and absolutely did not use Cheat Engine to item swap them until I had 9, one of which was actually a direct pickup from the Doors of Pharos that I'd missed earlier. With these, I am able to upgrade both of my hammers to +4, and theoretically that should be enough. So, with a mixture of excitement and anxiety, I step into the Pursuer's boss arena. The Pursuer is no more, and with him down, I claim my long-awaited prize, the Ring of Blades. His defeat also awards me access to a whole new area and a bunch of new goodies. In the Lost Bastille, I make sure first to move Macduff so I can grab another Twinkling Titanite from under him, then I try to take on the Pursuer spawns. Since they each drop a Twinkling Titanite, if I was able to one-shot them, it would be massive for trying to push to +5 hammers. Fortunately, the Ring of Blades shows just how much it's worth. I didn't even need to use a Brightbug. I don't know if these versions of the Pursuers have less health or what, but I'm not going to question it at this point. The game was finally throwing me a bone. I then grabbed the nearby Fragrant Branch of Yore and a Smooth and Silky Stone. Honestly, he should have seen that coming. Next up is the Rune Sentinels. Fortunately, they have less health than most bosses, you know, because there's 3 of them. This is a pretty easy one-shot, and for once, the arena actually played a part in being helpful. I literally just had to stand in this corner and wait for them to come to me. I'll admit I learned this strategy from a Press Continue video. Thanks for the tip, buddy. I grab a Twinkling Titanite from the Pursuer in the basement, as well as one from this little outside courtyard area, and now I have enough to max out one of my 2 hammers. I make a quick stop in Harvest Valley to grab another Fragrant Branch for later, then figured why not give the Dragon Riders a shot. That's not as close as I had hoped, but I can still upgrade my other hammer and have one final trick up my sleeve. At least I hope it's a final trick at this point. I take out an Invisibro in the Lost Bastille, and in Sinner's Rise, as well as grab this Smooth and Silky Stone off the ground. I figured while I was in town, I might as well drop in on the Lost Sinner. She didn't like me visiting. When I did successfully land an attack, I'm going to guesstimate it was about 75% of her health. I don't think one more upgrade will be enough to cover that, so I wonder what this run would be like if I cranked that shit up to 11, out of a possible 5. First, I head back to the things betwixt to handle the pursue... What? Oh, RTSR. That's better. Now I transmutate some more rocks into special rocks to get my second +5 Demon's Great Hammer. Like I said, this shouldn't be enough to one-shot her, but what if I just kinda... Oh yeah, that's dopamine straight to the soul. That's right, it's time to max out my stats. Well, actually just intelligence and faith, but that's all I need. Now, before you all say this is too much cheating, in theory you could max out a character in New Game, you just gotta new launder the Hide Knights. It would go faster if I used all the aesthetics I have, but since we're already throwing cheat engine around, why not this farm too? The next thing you're thinking is, Doom, has all that strength gone to your head? Those weapons only scale with Unga Bunga. That's completely true, dear viewer, but with access to McDuff, I can superglue rocks to my weapons for special effects. There is one thing I want to point out real fast. Earlier in the video, I gave myself some Twinkling Titanite, reasoning that had I dropped them one at a time to check for the trades, I would have been able to get them. Well, several of the infusion stones in my inventory are from those trades. As such, to keep things as close to a non-cheated version as possible, I removed my permacrit, joined the Covenant of Champions, and proceeded to smash some basilisks. I did this just to confirm what the wiki said was true, and that's that they drop each kind of infusion stone. After a while, I got a Feint, Poison, Fire, Raw, and Bolt Stone. Since I now know it's possible to one-shot them and can confirm that they actually do drop the infusion stones, I do not mind duplicating them should I need to. Also, I just want to point something out. On the Palestone page, it says that they can be farmed from Basilisk, but on the Basilisk page for both Fextra Life and Wikidot, they say that the Palestones aren't in the drop table. So just to be sure, I went and farmed the Old Knights in Heights Tower until one dropped, meaning I am now set for the final phase of my plan. According to the wiki, the Lost Center is weak to magic, so I infuse both my hammers with the power of blue, then do the setup. Will it be enough? Nope. Not even close. In fact, I think it might have done less damage than last time. So, I'm assuming what happened here is that the damage I lost from removing the pure strength scaling is offset by the damage gained in magic scaling, meaning the damage ended up being about the same. I'd kind of assumed that would be the case at max stats, but I had hoped that the weakness to magic would actually, do something. Then again, I am looking at Vextra Life, she very well might be resistant to magic. Either way, you might have noticed that I didn't use Whispers of Despair. Well, that's because I'm not completely sure it does anything. Earlier in the run, I would try and use it against the Pursuer, but it didn't seem to make a difference in how much damage I did to him. I would like to be able to test by turning on invincibility, but anytime I do that, I can't cast it. Yeah, I don't know why, but being invulnerable makes it to where my spells don't work. Hell, I can't even buff my weapon. Zero idea why that's happening, but at this point, I don't care. I then went to see if I could take out the Twin Dragon Riders. Supposedly, they are weak to fire, lightning, and strike, which is great news for me, so I buffed both my weapons with fire and... Nope, didn't help. What about lightning? Not even in my dreams. Honestly, it's really disappointing that the added elemental damage doesn't seem to be doing anything. I didn't fully expect it to make the one-shots possible, but this is just a letdown. That being said, I got way further in this run than I initially thought I would, and I'm happy with it. Oh, but wait, there's actually 2 more bosses that I think are going to be possible, so I'll give them a try. First is the old Dragon Slayer, or rather the still living dragon outside of his boss arena. Guess that name's just for show, huh? Anyway, I was initially worried about this dragon thinking it had some massive health pool. It's actually the reason I didn't want to use the aesthetics while farming earlier because I figured there was no shot that I'd be able to handle it in New Game Plus. But it's actually really weak. What you're seeing now is footage from much earlier in the run, just before I handled the Pursuer boss actually, so this is with +3 hammers. I even learned that you can one-shot him without a Bright Bug if you crit, or with a Bright Bug but without a crit, so that's neat. Anyway, back to the real boss. Oh, that is so close. Game, you can't just tease me like that, come on. So I noticed much earlier in the run that the numbers weren't always the same. It was almost like it was a damage range. I don't know if that's the case, but since I was so close, I decided to try a couple more times, and eventually, it worked. I one-shot him. Now, I know you're all gonna point out that in this attempt I used Whispers of Despair, and that's true, I did. However, I also tested while invincible where I couldn't use it and was still able to one-shot him. I think what happened, at least with the invincible attempt, was counter damage. If that is the case, then it might open up other bosses to being one-shot, but honestly, I am not going to be the one to find out. At least not today. The final boss is the Royal Rat Vanguard. Full disclosure, the footage you're watching now I did while I was invincible because absolutely fuck these rats. They killed me at least 24 times while I was trying to get the boss to spawn, and I just wanted to confirm it was possible. Unsurprisingly, it totally is. With that, the challenge is over, and I can say that no, you cannot beat Dark Souls 2 by one-shotting everything. Thank you everyone for watching, and an extra special thanks to my patrons. Stay beautiful, y'all. Also, a massive thanks and shout out to JK Leeds, Challenger Andy, and Limit of the Backlogs. Without them, I definitely wouldn't have gotten as far as I did. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to do the YouTube stuff and maybe consider checking out the time I beat Dark Souls 2 at Soul Level 1. An equally as crushing experience, I assure you. But until next time, my friends, don't you dare go hollow.